A deceitful woman, out of greed for property, conspired with her first husband to kill her second husband. But in the process, the first husband was also killed, and the woman transferred all the property into her own name. However, the soul of the first husband returned to take revenge. My name is Finn. I'm 30 years old, and for the last several years I've been running my own mobile shop. It isn't the biggest store in town, but it's mine, and I've built it with hard work and patience. Every day, I arrange the phones, chargers, cases, and accessories on the shelves, waiting for customers. Business is steady enough to give me a comfortable life. I live alone, and for the most part, my life has been quiet and uneventful. But deep inside, I often wondered if something was missing. Money was never my biggest problem. I had enough. What I longed for was someone to share my life with. A companion, a partner, someone who could make me feel complete. At 30, I couldn't help but feel time slipping by. Then, one ordinary day, while I was adjusting the display of smartphones in the glass case, the bell above the shop door jingled. I looked up casually, expecting another customer. Instead, I saw her. She walked in gracefully, wearing a simple dress that somehow made her seem extraordinary. Her name, I would later learn, was Amelia. That was the day everything in my life began to change. Amelia stepped into my shop, as if the world slowed down around her. She was elegant, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of curiosity and sadness. I greeted her politely, but my heart was pounding faster than ever before. I didn't know why, but something about her pulled me in immediately. "Do you have the latest phone models?" she asked softly. Her voice was gentle, almost musical, and I found myself hanging on to every word. As I showed her different models, I couldn't stop stealing glances at her. She wasn't just beautiful, there was something magnetic about her presence. When our eyes met, I felt a strange electricity, as though we had known each other long before this moment. "By the way, my name is Amelia," she said with a faint smile. "Finn," I replied, my voice betraying my nervousness. That day, as she left the shop, I knew my life would never be the same. Later, I gathered the courage to talk to her more. I asked for her number and address. To my surprise, she didn't hesitate. She handed it over as if she wanted me to have it. From that very first encounter, we both knew something had begun. Days passed, and I couldn't get Amelia out of my mind. Her smile lingered in my thoughts, and her voice echoed in my head. I finally decided to call her. To my relief, she answered warmly, almost as if she had been waiting for my call. "Would you like to meet me for coffee?" I asked nervously. There was a brief pause before she replied, "Yes, I'd love that." We met at a small, cozy cafe, tucked into a quiet corner of the city. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air as we sat across from each other, a little nervous but excited. She stirred her cup slowly, her eyes occasionally locking with mine. I gathered my courage and asked, "Are you happy in your marriage?" Her smile faded, and she looked away. "Not really. It's complicated," she whispered. In that moment, my heart burned with a selfish desire. "Then leave him," I said. "Divorce him. Be with me." She didn't protest. Instead, she gave me a soft look, one that I mistook for love. I couldn't know then that behind her delicate eyes, there were secrets dark, secrets that would one day destroy me. Soon after, Amelia told me she had left her husband. "I filed for divorce," she said with a gentle smile, her voice trembling just enough to make me believe her pain. My heart leapt. I thought fate had finally brought me the love I had been waiting for. We married quickly. I didn't care about what others thought. Love had consumed me, and in Amelia's embrace, I felt whole. Our days together were filled with laughter, warmth, and the comfort of a new beginning. At least, that's what I believed. Amelia treated me with affection. Yet sometimes her eyes wandered far away, lost in thoughts she never shared. I dismissed it, telling myself she was just adjusting to her new life. In reality, she was still speaking to her ex-husband in secret. Unbeknownst to me, the two of them were making plans not for love, but for my wealth. My most valuable possession was a plot of land, worth a fortune. I had inherited it from my family, and it meant more to me than money ever could. Selling it was out of the question. I didn't realize then that my refusal to sell would put me in deadly danger. Life with Amelia felt perfect on the surface. Every morning, she smiled at me, kissed my cheek, and wished me a good day at the shop. I worked hard, brought her gifts, and gave her everything she asked for. I never imagined that behind her loving words and sweet gestures, betrayal was quietly taking root. One evening, I told her, "I need to travel to another city tomorrow. I have to buy supplies for the shop. It might take a day or two." She smiled and nodded, but something flickered in her eyes, something I didn't notice at the time. The next morning, I packed my things and left home. As I drove away, I realized I had forgotten my phone. Irritated, I turned back. That small mistake changed everything. When I reached the house, I heard laughter inside, soft, playful laughter that froze my blood. Quietly, I approached the window. My heart shattered when I saw Amelia with another man. My hands shook. My breath caught. It was her ex-husband. In that instant, the love I had for her clashed with a rage I had never known. I crept inside silently, each step heavier than the last. My eyes darted toward the kitchen, where a knife gleamed under the light. Without thinking, I picked it up and tightened my grip until my knuckles turned white. Inside the room, Amelia's ex-husband laughed as though he owned my home. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest, the sound of blood roaring in my ears. My body moved on instinct, driven by betrayal and fury. I rushed forward and plunged a knife into his back. His laughter ended in a strangled gasp, his body collapsing to the floor. Silence filled the room, broken only by Amelia's scream. In a flash, she pulled open a drawer and pointed a pistol at me. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were sharp with fear and maybe hatred. "Don't come closer, Finn," she shouted, her voice breaking. I dropped the knife, raising my hands slowly. "Please, put it down, Amelia. We can talk." Tears welled in her eyes. "He forced himself on me," she claimed desperately. "He begged me to come back, but I refused. That's why you saw him here." Her words wrapped around my anger, confusing me. Against my better judgment, I chose to believe her. I stared at Amelia, the pistol still shaking in her hands. Her tears looked real, her trembling voice convincing. I wanted to believe her, needed to believe Herbie, 'cause the alternative was too painful. Slowly, she lowered the gun, and I felt the weight of my own guilt pressing on my chest. "What are we going to do with him?" she whispered, glancing at the lifeless body on the floor. My hands were stained with blood, my mind clouded with panic. We'll have to bury him," I muttered, my voice hollow. Together, under the cover of night, we carried the body to the courtyard. The earth was cold and heavy, as I dug with trembling hands, sweat dripping down my face despite the chill. Amelia stood by, her eyes unreadable in the dim light. When the grave was filled, I patted down the soil and stared at the ground, unable to believe what I had done. Amelia touched my shoulder softly. "It's over now. Forget about it. We can move on." And I believed her. I forced myself to bury not just the body, but the memory itself, telling myself love could cover even the darkest scenes. Days turned into weeks, and life seemed to return to normal. Amelia smiled, cooked meals, and embraced me each night as though nothing had happened. I convinced myself that we were happy again, that love had triumphed over everything. But deep down, small cracks began to show. Sometimes, I would catch Amelia whispering into her phone when she thought I wasn't around. Other times, she would disappear into another room, her voice hushed and secretive. Whenever I asked, she brushed it off with excuses. "It was a friend," she would say. "Don't worry." And I believed her, 'cause I wanted to. What I didn't know was that Amelia was still in contact with her ex-husband before his death. And even now, her thoughts were poisoned with greed. She wanted more than just my love. She wanted everything I owned: my shop, my money, and most of all, the valuable plot of land I refused to sell. At night, I slept peacefully beside her, never realizing that the woman I trusted most was slowly weaving a trap around me, a trap that would soon claim my life. On the surface, my life looked perfect. I had a beautiful wife, a thriving business, and a comfortable home. Friends often told me I was lucky, and I smiled, agreeing with them. But beneath that smile, something uneasy stirred in me. Sometimes, late at night, I would wake to find Amelia staring at me. Her eyes, in the darkness, were cold and distant. When I asked her what was wrong, she would quickly close her eyes and pretend to sleep. I convinced myself it was my imagination. One evening, I overheard her speaking quietly on the phone. "Don't worry," she whispered. "It's only a matter of time." The words sent a chill through me. But when I stepped into the room, she smiled warmly and hid the phone. "I was just talking to a cousin," she explained. I forced myself to accept her answer, even though unease gnawed at my heart. I didn't know then that Amelia had already decided my fate. Her heart was no longer mine. Her love was just a mask, carefully crafted to blind me while she prepared to take everything. I had thought it was an ordinary evening when the trap finally closed around me. I returned from my shop, tired but content, unaware that the woman in my home had already sealed my destiny. Amelia greeted me with her usual smile. "Dinner's ready," she said sweetly. The aroma of food filled the air, and I felt grateful for her care. I sat down and began to eat. never suspecting the danger hidden in each bite. Halfway through the meal, a strange dizziness overcame me. My vision blurred, and the room began to spin. My limbs grew heavy, my head clouded with confusion. I murmured, my voice weak, "Something's wrong." She only smiled, watching me struggle. "Just relax, Finn," she said softly, her tone almost tender. Panic surged inside me as I realized the truth. There was something in the food. My body betrayed me, refusing to obey, while my mind screamed for survival. Amelia stood calmly, her eyes cold, her expression unreadable. That night, I discovered the woman I loved was also the one who had poisoned me. The poison coursed through my body, making me weak and helpless. My head throbbed, my chest tightened, and I could barely stand. Amelia's hands guided me out of the chair, her touch deceptively gentle. "Come on, Finn," she whispered. "Let's go for a drive. The fresh air will help." I wanted to resist, but my strength was gone. She half carried, half dragged me to the car and buckled me into the passenger seat. The engine roared to life, and we drove into the night. Through blurred vision, I saw the city lights fade as she steered us toward the mountains. My heart pounded with dread. Something was terribly wrong, but my poisoned body betrayed me. Where are we going?" I croaked. "To a quiet place," she replied calmly, her eyes fixed on the road. There was no warmth in her voice, only cold determination. The road grew narrow, the cliffs steep. Finally, she stopped near the edge of a deep ravine. She stepped out of the car, leaving me inside, dazed and confused. Then, with a push as effortless as a sigh, she sent the car and me plunging into the abyss. The world spun as the car hurtled down the cliff. I felt weightless for a moment, then the crushing impact as metal twisted and glass shattered around me. My body slammed against the seat, pain exploding through me. The last thing I saw was fire. Flames engulfed the wreckage, swallowing everything in their path. My skin burned, my breath vanished, and in seconds, I was gone. But death was not the end. I drifted above the wreck, staring at my own lifeless body consumed by flames. My flesh turned to ash, but my soul lingered, chained to the place of my death. I should have felt fear or sorrow, but all I felt was rage. A burning fury ignited inside me, hotter than the fire below. I saw her face in my mind, Amelia, standing safely above, smiling at her victory. In that moment, I swore I would not rest. I would not vanish. My love had been betrayed, my trust shattered, my life stolen. If Amelia thought my story had ended, she was wrong. My soul had just begun its hunt for revenge. News of my death spread quickly. To the world, it was a tragic accident, unfortunate man who lost control of his car and perished in the flames. Amelia played her role perfectly. She cried in front of the neighbors, her sobs convincing enough to fool everyone. But behind closed doors, she was celebrating my property, my shop, my savings, all of it passed into her hands. Most importantly, the valuable plot of land I had refused to sell was now hers. What I had protected all my life was finally within her grasp. Just she dressed in black for a few weeks, pretending to mourn, but her eyes sparkled with greed. People whispered about how strong she was, how bravely she was moving on after tragedy. None of them saw the truth, the monster hidden behind her gentle face. From the shadows, I watched her. My soul lingered near our home, bound by anger and betrayal. I saw her counting money, smiling to herself, sipping wine in the evenings. My blood, though no longer in my veins, boiled with fury. She thought she had won. She thought I was gone forever, but I was closer than she could ever imagine. That night, the house was quiet. Amelia sat alone in the bedroom, going through my papers, my property deeds, my accounts. She smiled, satisfied with her new life of wealth. But then, the temperature in the room dropped. The warm air turned cold, her breath misting in front of her lips. The light flickered, shadows stretching unnaturally across the walls. Amelia froze. "Who's there?" she whispered. The silence was broken by a faint sound, the echo of footsteps, slow, heavy, coming closer. She stood, trembling, clutching the pistol she kept in the drawer. "This isn't funny," she said, her voice unsteady. Then she saw me. Or rather, she saw what was left of me, my spirit, pale and burning with fire that was not of this world. My eyes locked onto hers, and I saw the terror in her face. She gasped, her body trembling violently. "No, this can't be real. You're dead. You're gone," she cried. I took a step forward. "You betrayed me, Amelia," my voice whispered, though my lips never moved. Her hand clutched her chest. The pistol slipped from her fingers, and in that instant, her heart gave out. Amelia's face turned pale as her hands clawed at her chest. She staggered backward, eyes wide with terror, unable to look away from me. Her lips quivered, trying to form words, but only broken gasps escaped. You're not real, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I moved closer, my presence heavy and suffocating. The air around us grew colder, the shadows deepening. Amelia collapsed to her knees, her body trembling violently. The weight of her sins had finally caught up to her. Her eyes rolled back, and with one last, desperate breath, she fell to the floor. The room went silent, except for the faint echo of her final heartbeat. She had taken everything from me, my trust, my love, my life. But in the end, it was her own greed that destroyed her. No blade, no poison, no flame had ended her story. It was fear, guilt, and the justice of fate that claimed her. Amelia's body lay still, her once triumphant smile erased forever. At last, the cycle was complete. I stood over her lifeless body, no longer consumed by rage, but by a strange, cold calm. The fire of vengeance that had fueled me since my death flickered and began to fade. My soul had waited for this moment, not to see Amelia suffer, but to see balance restored. Around me, the house was silent. The papers she had once clutched lay scattered across the floor. Deeds, titles, proof of her greed. They meant nothing now. She had gained everything she wanted, only to lose the one thing she could never control, her life. I felt no pity. She had chosen her path, and she had walked it straight into her own destruction. My role was not to kill her, but to show her the truth of the face of the man she had betrayed. Her heart had done the rest. As I turned away, I felt a strange release. The chains of anger that had bound me loosened. My soul, once heavy with pain, now felt lighter. Amelia was gone. Justice had been served. But my story was not quite over. The house that once echoed with Amelia's laughter now stood in silence. Her body remained lifeless on the cold floor, while the papers she cherished scattered like dead leaves in the wind. The curtains swayed gently, though no breeze entered. I lingered in the room, my spirit hovering in the shadows. For the first time since my death, I felt no anger, no burning thirst for revenge. Instead, there was emptiness, a hollow quietness inside me. Neighbors would soon wonder where Amelia had gone. They would find her here, her heart stopped by fear, and rumors would spread. Some would call it karma, others would whisper of ghosts, but no one would know the truth that justice had come not from this world, but the next. I drifted through the house, each room a reminder of my foolish trust. The kitchen where she poisoned me, the courtyard where we buried her ex, the bedroom where she plotted my end. Every wall carried the memory of betrayal. But now, it was over. Amelia's reign of deceit had ended, and the house itself seemed to sigh in relief. I returned to the courtyard one final time. The soil still hid the secret we had buried together. The man she had chosen over me. The man I had killed in blind rage. I stood over the spot, the memory of that night replaying in my mind. It struck me then, how love, when twisted by lies, could turn into something darker than hate. I had loved Amelia with everything I had, but she had only seen me as a means to an end. Her greed had devoured her heart long before mine ever stopped beating. I whispered into the night, though no one could hear me, "Goodbye, Amelia. You could have had love, but you chose betrayal." The wind rustled the trees, as if the world itself acknowledged the end of our story. I felt the pull of something beyond a light in the distance, faint but warm, calling me away from the shadows of this house. For the first time since my death, I felt peace. The night grew still as I drifted through the empty rooms one last time. My footsteps made no sound, my presence leaving no trace. Amelia's body remained where it had fallen, her eyes frozen in terror. Her lips parted as if she had tried to scream but never could. I realized then that I no longer belonged here. My story had ended the moment she betrayed me, and what kept me tethered to this world was not love, but vengeance. That vengeance had now been satisfied. I stepped outside into the cool night air. The sky above was dark, scattered with stars that shimmered like distant lanterns guiding the lost. I felt a strange warmth wrap around me, pulling me away from the pain, away from the hatred. The house grew smaller behind me, until it disappeared entirely from my sight. My spirit, once restless, began to fade like mist under the morning sun. At last, I was free. I rose higher, weightless, my soul unburdened. The fire of rage that once consumed me was gone, replaced by a calm I had never known. Below me, the world continued as it always had, shops opening, people laughing, lives moving forward, untouched by the storm that had destroyed mine. Amelia's story ended with greed. Mine ended with betrayal. But together, our tale was a warning. Love built on lies will always collapse. and those who deceive will one day face the cost of their actions. As the light drew closer, I felt myself dissolve into it. No pain, no anger, no sorrow, only peace. The chains of this world fell away, and I vanished into the eternity that awaited me. The house, the shop, the land, even Amelia's memory, they no longer mattered. My journey was over. And so, with my revenge complete and my soul finally at rest, I faded forever into the silence beyond life.